Marcus Aurelius is one of the most famous and well-known Stoic philosophers of all time. He was a Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, and he was the last ruler from a line later known as the Five Good Emperors. He was in one of the highest positions of power in the world at the time, and would have access to the realization of all his temptations and desires should he wish for them. But instead, he dedicated his life to fairness and justice. During his rule, Aurelius found the time to construct a series of autobiographical writings now known as the Meditations, which has become one of the most important texts within Stoic philosophy. In the Meditations, Aurelius describes guides on how to improve oneself. These were mostly focused on taking a cosmic perspective and critically analyzing your judgment on yourself and others. As a leader of a powerful empire that experienced multiple wars during his rule, Aurelius used his own Stoic philosophy to let go of stress and worries, and to be the very best and reliable leader he could be. Stoicism is an ancient and incredibly famous philosophy that, aside from a theory, is also a truly inspiring way of thinking and living. The Stoics strongly believed that doing the right thing was the key to individual happiness, and that in order to do the right thing, sound judgment and clear rational thinking was necessary. So with that in mind, in this video, we'll talk to you about how you can develop a rational mind through 5 important lessons that can help you think more clearly from the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. Number 1. Train your perception. Marcus Aurelius says, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." One of the greatest lessons of Stoicism is to take control of your perception. We're used to judging everything we come across. Any event we experience, any people we meet, sights we see, all of them get a value judgment. Something was either bad, good, boring, fun, beautiful, ugly, etc. This is, unbeknownst to us, a very exhausting practice, and also one that might affect our lives for the worse. For example, judging every interaction you have on a particularly hard day as awful gives the day itself an even more negative view. If you label a party you went to as boring, that is all it will be. That one boring part of your week. We often let our initial judgments of things be influenced by our emotions, which means they're most likely not entirely rational. Furthermore, our tendency to judge every moment of our lives goes hand in hand with a tendency to talk in metaphors and hyperboles that make things seem worse. If you get dumped by your partner, you might say your ex broke your heart, instead of the fundamental fact that they no longer feel for you the way they used to. This way of speaking, or rather this way of thinking, shapes how you feel. It's not the actual event that makes you feel bad, but rather the way you unconsciously choose to think about it. The Stoics, in contrast, encourage people to be careful to judge everything you come across and the things that you do, and one of the ways to be careful is to undo your judgments, which essentially means to look past them, to be able to forget your first instinct and to judge something through a more optimistic and reasonable lens. You can try to reframe that boring party in your mind as an event where you got to see a new place and meet some new people. Okay, afterwards you might note that you didn't really resonate with anyone, but you didn't go in with the expectation of negativity. As such, practicing not to judge everything based on your first instinct and emotion is the very best way to start training your perception on life. Whenever you think about anything in an opinionated way, try to ask yourself, is this rational? What have I based my opinion on? Is there a better or more positive way to interpret this? Marcus Aurelius stressed that harms can only be if you consider them as harms. This means that any hard experience you went through seems harder and worse the harder and worse you consider it to be. As such, You have complete control over how much certain situations affect you. The Stoics also encourage you to see every bad thing that happens as an opportunity or source for good. As an exercise of training your perspective in a Stoic way, there's a challenge called turning the obstacle upside down. When a new co-worker is a slow learner and their mistakes affect the company's profits, you might feel frustration. This co-worker is an obstacle to what you're trying to achieve: effectiveness, efficiency, and profit. However, this situation can also be an opportunity for good. It's an opportunity for youth to exercise and practice patience, to become a better teacher, to learn how to integrate new people into the company, and how to handle stressful times. All of these are skills that will also be useful later and should also help you increase profits in the long run as well. On this subject, Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So, all in all, instead of judging everything you come across in an exaggerated sense, take the time to look at things as they objectively are, and you might find that life is simpler and clearer than you thought. Every situation has a more positive interpretation and a more negative one. When you adjust your mindset accordingly, you'll find that nothing bothers you as much as it used to, and you'll get through life much more easily. Number 2. Learn to control your emotions. Marcus Aurelius advises us to stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you. Stop being hypocritical, self-centered, irritable. Acting out of emotion is often depicted as a stark contrast to acting rationally, and this is not without reason. There's nothing that clouds our judgment more than our own emotions can. So if you want to think clearly at all times, one of the most important skills to master is the ability to control your emotions. According to Marcus Aurelius, the emotion of anger in particular does us more harm than good. Contrary to what many people seem to think or try, controlling your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. When you feel intense anger as a result of a betrayal, you cannot control this anger by denying its existence to yourself or others, by pretending you're fine. It will still be there, no matter how deep down you push it. Instead, controlling emotions such as anger is, according to the Stoics, done by redirecting emotions. So, when you're next experiencing anger, ask yourself what you can do with that anger. Yelling at the one who hurt you might seem tempting, but will it help you lessen your hurt or better your situation? Will it help the one who betrayed you be better? In short, think about what you're tempted to do and then ask yourself if it's helpful. If not, find ways to express your emotions that are helpful. Maybe you can achieve better results by calmly talking with the one who hurt you, explaining your feelings, and trying to see their side. You could also journal, take part in physical exercise, get lost in a video game, or anything else that might help you let go of your anger afterwards. For another example, take anxiety or fear. You can't simply push it down, but you can redirect it. Instead of letting anxiety paralyze you, you can use it to challenge yourself to take those actions that make you feel it and acknowledge its existence throughout. Let's say you're too scared to ask your boss for a raise. Lots of people see such fear as a reason to not do something, and they'll allow themselves to be stopped by their anxieties. Others might be able to go through with it and regard their anxiety as something that's in the way and needs to be pushed down and ignored. But neither has to be the case. Instead, your fear is something that can be expressed healthily and maybe even end up being helpful. For example, this fear makes you think about everything that can go wrong, which can lead you to consider all possible questions your boss might ask, or the counter-arguments you might get to hear. This way, you can brace for them and form a plan for each possible scenario. But most importantly, the fear provides a positive motivation to go through with it, to challenge yourself and grow as a person, to prove to yourself that you can, to make the step not despite your fear, but partly because of it. And in that scenario, you can be aware of the anxiety throughout and think, how awesome that I'm trying this anyway. When you manage to redirect strong emotions with ease, you'll be a calm person no matter what, and your emotions will never lessen your ability to think rationally and make smart decisions. Controlling your emotions is the key to a calmer mind.